McNichols left an undeniable legacy on the sports of cross country and track and field. After graduating in 1972 with a bachelor's degree in physical education from Indiana University, McNichols started out as a coach and teacher with the Monroe County School Corporation before transitioning to Bloomington North High School. McNichols turned his attention to the collegiate ranks in 1983 when Indiana State hired him as men's head coach, and he added the women's program to his resume in 1989. The Sycamores thrived under McNichols' direction, his teams capturing 38 Missouri Valley Conference championships in 34 years, 11 of those coming in cross country, 27 in track and field. Those victories led by athletes who won 464 MVC individual crowns. McNichols' athletes also achieved success on the national level with 15 individual NCAA titles. None were more successful than Holly Heitch, who won 7 short sprint national crowns, including indoor-outdoor sweeps in 1993 and 1994. The Sycamores totaled 113 All-America honors, all of which led to 15 top 25 showings at NCAA meets. Behind Heitch's lead, Indiana State tied for 5th at the 93 Indoor Championships, the best finish by a McNichols-led team. One of his finest contributions to the sport was his design of the Laverne Gibson Championship Cross Country course in Terre Haute. The course has hosted the NCAA Division I Championship 12 times now and will once again welcome the best of the best to its grounds in 2019. McNichols coached on 4 U.S. national team staffs and also served in high management positions in domestic and international track and field. He was an official at the 1984 LA Olympics, the 1987 Pan American Games, and the 1988 U.S. Olympic trials before ascending to head marshal for the 1996 Atlanta Summer Games. Sadly, McNichols passed away in 2016 at the age of 66. He is deeply missed in the sports community and by all those he influenced over his many decades of coaching. The late John McNichols, 2018 Coaches Hall of Fame.
Thank you so very much for honoring my husband in this way. We were married for 46 years, and I'd like to take just a moment to recognize my family, if you'll humor me. My son, our son Matt, and his wife Julie, and daughter Rachel, her husband Jamie McDowell, daughter Janie Zabo. Her husband John is at home with 2 little ones in Terre Haute, Indiana, 2 of 10 wonderful grandchildren. And from Indiana State, our Indiana State family, I'll say, we have some really special people, 2 administrators, 1 SID, and 8 coaches with our track program. Angie Lansing, Dennis Dark, Andrew Heil, Jeff and Angie Martin, Kyle Walsh, Darrow Ramsey, Anthony Bertoli, Brandon Bettenhausen, Abby Pierce, and my John's very close friend and coaching buddy, who just accepted the Jimmy Carnes Award this afternoon, John Gartland. 6 of those I've just named are former Sycamore track athletes. And I'd really love to know how many other athletes, coaches in the room have connections with ISU. As I've told other friends, these people all stay the same ages, between 18 and 25. They never get any older. The problem is I can't remember when they were in school, so I think they should all know one another. Doesn't work that way. Our current coaches are doing a wonderful job. They're building on past success and moving our programs forward. John passed away December 21st, 2016 in Orlando, Florida. Just following the close of this convention, he had a massive stroke on December 17th. John McNichols was a student and a teacher of life. Anyone who's had connections with him know that he was always teaching. And of course, he always knew the right answers. So you didn't doubt him. His greatest passion of all was the sport of track and field. He loved every aspect of his work. It didn't matter if it was a public service project, picking up trash along the river, or he worked very hard on our trails initiative and riverscape committees. And he just loved all of it, all the way up to serving on committees for this organization. He awakened happy every morning. He annoyingly whistled and sang, and he boasted that he felt really good. His work was never, ever about money. Good thing, huh? So, he reminded me quite often that I was working to support his coaching habit, and then he would follow this up by telling me that he would do what he was doing even if they didn't pay him. And I would say, God forbid, don't tell anyone this. And at that point, of course, he had this huge, huge grin on his face. The time commitment for him, never a problem. And I'll remind you, your sport of track and field is a minor sport. Really great thing is you count for 6 sports. So you've got men's cross country, women's cross country, men's indoor, women's indoor, men's outdoor, women's outdoor. So it's easy. If you have reasonable success with your program, you're really going to have a lot of free time, maybe even 2 or 3 weekends out of the year. At Indiana State University, we have a very high percentage of first-generation students, many of whom have very limited experience away from their homes and their home environment, their towns and their schools. John really wanted these athletes to learn in every fashion and enjoy every trip that they took. So, on their tours with Coach, they endured his stories, his shortcuts, which weren't always so, and they've all compiled their personal memories, which are pretty funny if you have time to listen to them. He treated his athletes as men and women. When he came home, they were his kids, sometimes our kids. And one thing I will remind you, those of you who were on the team, who are now coaching, and some of you coaches in the audience, I know all your stories. I know your faults, and each time you caused him any grief at all. His athletes called him the big guy. I always thought that was kind of humorous. They laughed at his travel stories and made fun of his shortcuts. But they have said he was like a father, and they loved him. Over 33 plus years of coaching at ISU, there were a few who didn't quite complete their tenure on the best terms with my husband. Slowly but surely, most of those student athletes came back. It might have been 10 years later, it might have been 20 years later, it might have been 30 years later. But they called, they wrote, they came in to visit, and typically they were thanking him for everything that they got from their college experience and apologizing for any grief that they may have caused him along the way. And most of those people are really quite successful, doing very well in their lives. We are all very proud of our current facilities, which are the best they've ever been. The Laverne Gibson Cross Country Course, which many of you have visited. The Gibson Outdoor Track. We have a John McNichols indoor training facility now, and a newly opened indoor track, which just hosted on December 8th their first competition scored meet ever. Following John's death, we formed the John McNichols Memorial Fund, and this fund will be giving back to the track and cross-country program specifically for many years to come. John was really relentless. I've heard this word a couple times. Very relentless in his pursuit of bettering athletes, the ISU program, and the track and field community overall. He loved his work with an undying passion that most people never find in a lifetime, and he made things happen. In closing, it is my hope that when you crossed his path, you felt some level of respect for him. Thank you very much.